Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you here at the Conference on Applications of SPSS and Statistical Data Analysis 2020 conference. And I note that you are based in India, but the researchers and the analysts and the administrators that are participating in the conference are all from all over the world. I'm going to share briefly some of the work that we have done here at the City University of New York, Medgar Evers College, surrounding the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved. Working with me on this work for about 5 years, we've collaborated is Dr. Jacqui Kisato from Kiana University. Professor Micah Crump is our lead entrepreneurship faculty member. Professor Alicia Reid is the chair of the Department of Environmental Sciences. Professor Roberto Acevedo is a Ph.D. physicist working out of Chile, and Ms. Nia Rock is a community banker with a lifetime of experience. We'll start with hope for the future of technology and entrepreneurial innovations for the underserved. There is hope post-pandemic for an economy of diversity and inclusion of a broad base of talent using technology such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, 3D printing, virtual reality, and later augmented reality. Instead of cloning homogeneous labor forces to support the demands of mass production, more diverse, creative, and agile entrepreneurial teams or persons will cost effectively produce for niche markets, even as small as units of one. What makes Hemant Taneja's concept in his book, Unscaled, how AI and a new generation of upstarts are creating the economy of the future, and how it holds exciting possibilities for the underserved who have limited access to private capital in the face of declining accessibility to public capital. Today's vision of the new world has good and bad news. In an interview, he tells of a future where technology will increase the lifespan of truck drivers, but they may have no jobs because technology will have developed self-driving vehicles. Later, Taneja cites multiple Silicon Valley experiments with universal income because the demand for labor globally is expected to significantly decline. And that is because of a lot of innovation and productivity in the technology. While income can be shifted such that displaced labor is compensated financially, no one yet knows the impact of a lifetime of not working on an individual or society's sense of purpose. How will the new workforce be educated to meet the demands of this new AI world? Taneja posits that education too will become unscaled. On-demand learning will be supported through a fusion of education and training to meet the unique needs of individuals. The Khan Academy was used as an example as well as other experiential experiments. AI will support education becoming optimized for the individual. Unscaled learning has evolved to leveraging online tools, webinars, and community of like-minded persons such as this conference that is meeting virtually to learn new concepts. For instance, data analysis in R or Python is available through open source platforms. The community of data enthusiasts readily help with any other questions. It is the difference between making all our kids conform to a mass market education system and having an education system that conforms to your individual kid. The coursework becomes individualized, conforming to each student's learning style and pace. The sweet spot in the book, and my personal favorite, is the last chapter, The Individual Living Your Life as a Personal Enterprise. Here, Taneja gets personal. He shares with the reader the range of alternative futures for his own 3 children. While his oldest may still seek a formal college education, like many of us and those immediately behind us, the future generation may not. His youngest son may not ever go to college, and it's not because he can't afford to or any of those issues, but it's because he may find that what he wants to do in life does not necessarily require a college education. Several workplace institutions are already giving preference to performance based credential skills over the traditional and costly college degree. Why is that? It's because the industry needs the workforce, the talent, those who are able to perform much sooner than we have been able in the academy to produce them. And this is a direct quote from the book. The way we think about our education will change because the way we think about our work will change. The trend towards upscaling and unbundling work is only going to speed up. As an individual in the emerging unscaled economy, your best bet is not to fight the oncoming forces, but to take advantages of them. And so our interpretation of that is that the technology is coming to improve our ability to do work, not to take our work away from us. There will be different work that we can participate in. Our job is to figure out what that work is and how we can participate. Unity in community and capacity building. I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the work of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and the UN Office of Human Rights. They actually did a meeting in December of 2018. I was a part of that meeting, and I had shared some of the work that was done there with my colleagues. And the meeting title was Enhancing Cooperation Between United Nations and Regional Mechanism for the Protection of Human Rights on the Consultation of Regional Human Rights Mechanisms in the Americans and UN Human Rights Mechanisms on Combating Racism, Racial Discrimination, xenophobia, and other related intolerance. At the end of a full day of reporting by the delegates of poverty, joblessness, crime, and a full array of human rights violations by rich and poor countries, there was little hope for change in any business as usual solutions. Sort of like what we're facing today with the pandemic, some of the issues and challenges we're facing, the solutions that we've used in the past just won't help us now. Those in power who control capital and other factors of production continue to increase their share of market gains. While there was some progress reported, it was overshadowed by the reality that far too many are being left behind in this new technology-driven global world. In our assessment, the major outcome from the meeting was a general realization that the strategies of the past had not yielded significant results for the poor everywhere. There's been progress, but not enough for the growing populations that are being born into unjust economic systems that they did not create. The end of the consultation included promises to bring transformative change to the poor by leveraging diverse organizations from the bottom up, as the top-down approaches have failed. Sort of like what you're doing here. You're talking about your research. You're talking about ways in which it can be executed from the bottom up. At the end of the day, it yielded commitments to send more recommendations for unity to the Organization of American States and the UN, as both celebrated decades of global humanitarian service. Conclusions. We now have a reliable data source to consistently compare developed and developing countries' disparity in the income. That is the UN-funded research on global economic inequalities, and you can Google it and see a vast amount of the research that was done, and we capitalized on that. The data in the past told us that the rich were getting richer. However, the new data is able to track the pace and the severity of the gaps within regions and between countries. The good news is that some countries are experiencing a slower rise in the inequities. The bad news for us in the U.S. is that it will get worse if there is no substantive change. And I will say, as post-pandemic, we expect that the rises in inequality will happen because many who were in the middle class, and I can talk to you about the experience that we're having here in the U.S., will find after the pandemic, those jobs have gone. Their ability to recapture those jobs will be dependent on how fast that they can retrain and re-enter the labor force. We continue, however, to believe that strategies to increase the rate of entrepreneurship development within communities of the underserved will outpace other strategies for substantive economic change. As advanced technologies begin to shape a brave new world, there will be a decreasing demand for low-level labor functions and an increasing demand for higher labor functions. Is the worldwide labor force capable of transition at the rate of low-level to higher-level labor substitution required by industry? Will those who are unable or unwilling to find lower-level functions employment suffer a lifetime of poverty? If, in fact, the top 1% of global earners determine there is no need for the bottom 50%, which many middle classes, not just the poor, are in that bottom 50%, what are lifestyle scenarios that the poor will be forced to succumb to? What if we take the UN OAS approach to develop partnerships in economic collaboration and capacity building? What if we allocate resources to build grassroots ecosystems to launch, leverage, and grow sustainable technology ventures in underserved communities? What if private capital strategies such as opportunity zones redirect private capital into impact enterprises? What if the poor help develop their own ventures in their own communities with their own human capital? What if it starts with us? It starts with our voices. For development to be real, we must have inclusivity in all spheres of life. Progress starts with our voices and our actions right now. This is your call to action to have a wonderful conference, to not just talk about the research that you've been so wedded to, but to talk about execution of that research and how you as individuals and as a group can come together to change the world and change the outcome of this post-pandemic worldwide society that we will be living in. Thank you and enjoy the conference.